What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Talking Elite Fitness. I'm Sean Woodland, joined by new dad Tommy Marquez. Tommy, how are you?
I'm good. Living the dad life.
And featuring Lauren Khalil. Lauren, how are you?
I'm great, but I want to know what Tommy's caffeine count is now that he's a dad.
We got to do the dad update. What is this, week 3?
Well, yeah, he's 3 weeks.
All right.
Yep.
How's it going?
We're barreling towards a month. It's good. I feel like every day, like I see something new about him.
Mm-hmm.
Where like the first couple of weeks of us just like head spinning are done, and now I'm like, oh, he's a little bit chunkier. Like he's the new facial expression, or this like new little tendency popped up. But my caffeine and sleep schedule is wild, absolutely wild. We've got a good. I think we're settling on a good system, but it's it's gnarly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're into a new locale now. Like this is how it starts. You had the kid, and then the dad gets pushed into his own little room, and then pretty soon he's in the garage. Like my father,
Yep.
I spent like, I don't know, 90% of my life living in the garage. So pretty soon that's going to happen.
I will say though, garage beers are the best.
Oh yeah, and that garage fridge that just never dies.
Nope.
I
mean, you don't even know what brand it is because it's the brand scratched off decades ago, and you're pretty sure whatever Freon precursor is running through that thing is probably illegal in 8 states. But
probably an environmental hazard. Lauren, I've noticed that you have the stockings hung by the chimney with care.
Oh, yes. And if I had my fireplace lit, I would.
Oh, yeah.
Have to move the wreath so that we don't have a house fire.
What's the temperature there?
34.
Ooh, it was 65
there's snow
today,
outside.
so it was. I had to wear a jacket.
Yikes!
I don't want to hear it.
Oh man,
it was 75 degrees.
Are you serious?
Today.
Oh man, it was sunny. I know that it wasn't that warm here. It was tolerable.
Whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Well, glad you both are doing well. Tommy, glad Miles is doing well. We got a couple things we're going to talk about today. We have a couple of events this weekend, a couple competitions going on. We have FitFest, that's in England, UK, and we have the Dubai Fitness Championship. Talk a little bit about those. There's a new documentary out that you may not know about, so we'll talk about that. And Katrin Davidsdottir officially announcing her retirement. And then we'll also get into the PFAA's response to CrossFit. But before we do that, we want to thank our sponsor for today, one of our sponsors for today, and that is Vuori, a new perspective on performance apparel that is perfect. If you are sick and tired of that traditional old workout gear, because everything they make is designed to work out in, but it does not look or feel like it. It is so comfortable that you're going to want to wear it all the time. Holidays are here, people. If you haven't done your shopping, look, this is a great opportunity to get somebody something that they are going to absolutely love. And in fact, I will go this far. If you put Vuori under the Christmas tree, or it's a Hanukkah present, my guess is that is going to be one of the most liked gifts that you give to that person, period.
100%.
My sister is getting exclusively Vuori for Christmas. I got her a jacket that feels like a warm blanket. Yep. I got her joggers because they're perfect, and a sweatshirt, and she's going to live in all 3 of them. And I know she's going to be so freaking happy.
Yeah. I mean, all their stuff is versatile and comfortable. It looks great in everyday life. It's perfect for any workout or activity. Also just lounging around. You want to check out their new Dream Knit collection. That stuff's fantastic. And listen, right now, if you go to Vuori.com/TEF, or if you like to type more, VuoriClothing.com/TEF, both will work. You will get 20% added to your order like that. At checkout, 20% off. Vuori.com/TEF, 20% off. Check out all their great stuff. Get some for your loved ones for the holidays, and you will be the hero of the holidays for that. Can't go wrong with it. Vuori Clothing.
Not all heroes wear capes, but they all wear Vuori.
They all give Vuori. That's good.
You like that?
That's really good.
I like
Workshop that one.
Also, I like Sean's dry humor. Or if you like to type more, that's just such a subtle, like kind of like dad joke,
Yeah. Vuori.com/TEF, 20% at checkout. Okay, let's get into it. So first thing that we're gonna talk about is that And I'm happy about this because I've talked about it for a while on this show, and I really started to think I may have just had a hallucination about the whole thing. But in 2023, the last year in Madison, Wisconsin, there was a documentary crew that documented the 2023 CrossFit Games that was outside of the CrossFit organization. I remember sitting down for an interview the Monday after competition ended, and then nothing happened. And I was like, where is it? Where is this thing going to be? And I remember in 2024 asking Dave about it at the first open announcement. He was like, oh yeah, it's great. We saw it. And it's like, okay, well, when's it coming out? Well, it's finally out. And you may not have noticed because CrossFit, the game site on Instagram, they put one post up. It was a reel, and that's, I think, all I've seen that they have put out. But it is now available to own on digital. You can get it on Apple TV, Amazon, Fandango, Google Play, and more. I haven't watched this yet. Looking forward to checking it out. But I'm having... I don't understand why this isn't being promoted more. I guess I kind of do because it's late. But it seems like this is sort of one thing you can say, hey, look, here's something good that we all should be watching. And it's something that people pay for. So it's something that you can make some money off of. I mean, Tommy, you remember like how popular the documentaries were back in the day? We had at one point like the most downloaded documentary on iTunes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the time, within the first couple of weeks of release, I want to say the Fittest on Earth documentaries, we had plus the Froning doc. At one point, we had like, I don't want to say we, because I'll say we got to be part of it through interviews and
that's not fair
research,
saying we. You're right.
Yeah, resources like that. But Heber, Marston, Ian, Mariah, Eric Diaz, all the people that like worked and put all the effort into it, had a top 50 all-time selling best documentary on iTunes, like all of them. And they may have since been like shifted down the leaderboard. And I want to say at one point there was like five of them that were in the top 30 and multiple in the top 10. And at one point, the 2016 one, Fittest on Earth, A Decade of Fitness, might have been number 1 or number 2. So they were wildly successful. They were one of the best bang for your buck money makers that the media team did, just because a lot of times, and this is where like the videographers deserve a ton of credit. They would go out and shoot with athletes, right? Mm-hmm. For videos and Road to the Games and all that stuff, and be collecting stuff that would build into the documentary throughout the year, and would set up or after the games they would go out and visit these athletes during the off season and then get those interviews. So it was super successful. It made CrossFit a ton of money. Funny enough, even the last couple of years in like 2019, 2020, there's a lot of friction around them.
Yeah, I remember
that. Like Marston and Heber had to fight to be able to do those, because the decision makers hated them, didn't like them.
Yeah, but so, Lauren, what's your experience been with the documentaries? How many how many did you ever wind up watching, or were you?
I watched every single one.
Yeah. What about Lauren? What about you, Lauren? What about Lauren?
Yeah,
what's been your experience?
I've watched every single one too, and I just had this thought kind of in real time that I know that this is super delayed, but I wonder if it was delayed even more after the games because they potentially had to make edits. Like I wonder how much Lazar could have been or is. I haven't seen it yet, and I don't know if for whatever reason they would make edits because of that, because they're different years, but I'm just curious if that added to more delays, because I know they had like a couple of set dates that it was supposed to release, and then it got pushed back, and then it got pushed back, and it seems like all of that happened after the games. Well, I could be totally reaching and wrong, but
I get why you don't want to release this right. I understand if this was supposed to go out right soon after the CrossFit Games, I understand why you got to push that, but it seems like you had so many opportunities leading up to that to release this. I just don't understand. And I'm not asking to like try to make a point. I really am curious, like why it got delayed so much.
Well, because wasn't the reason of outsourcing this company was because their turnaround time was
one of the things
quicker?
Yeah, that was one of the things I was told. And these, for reference, these guys have worked on, I think, HBO Sports stuff. I think they've done some ESPN 30 for 30 stuff. Like, they're a legit crew. And I remember going in, sitting for the interview and seeing their setup and the people they had and what I was like, okay, yeah, these guys.
Yeah, it's legit.
Yeah. So anyway, it's what is Fittest on Earth Final Showdown in Madtown is what it's called, and you can download it, check it out. I want to watch it. I really do, because I'm curious.
I do, yeah.
I'm just curious because it's now done by someone coming in from outside the CrossFit space and doing this, and what perspective are they going to put on it, and does that make it more digestible to someone who's not not totally entrenched in this community? Like, could I show it to a friend who knew nothing about it, and could I don't know.
And could they understand or follow along? And
right.
I remember that being something. I remember that being something that stood out to me, and that interview. A lot of that is fuzzy because of when it was done, the morning after the games. But I remember having some discussions with him that weren't tied to questions, because they would ask a question and be like, "What are you hoping to get here?" Because that question sounds like I think I get what you're getting at, but that question sounds like you don't quite understand the purpose of this. Yeah. And they'd be like, "Oh, well," and I'm like, okay, so I kind of had to like do some like CrossFit 101, CrossFit Games 101 kind of stuff, and some like the unwritten like nuances of the sport and history and, unknown, unknowable just things like that. Yeah. The part of the interview is like half interview and half for the doc and half just like having a conversation, trying to like provide some context and background. So, like you said, that makes me genuinely curious around like what this could be. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like it was promised. I remember them specifically saying, and I remember Castro running around being like, "They're going to have it done before Christmas. Yeah, they're going to have it done within a month. That's why we want it. It's going to be done in a month." I'm like, "Oh, okay, like great. That's great. I'll be impressed." But then it didn't happen, and not only was it not done in a month, it wasn't done in a year. It wasn't. I mean, we're almost. We're 15 months now, pretty much. Yeah, and that's why I had to like tell people, "No, I swear this actually happened." Chase, Tommy, tell them like we actually did this, because it kept. It's like some weird Mandela effect. Exactly. Like, no, I swear Sinbad was in that show. Yeah, it totally was. Genius. All right. Yeah. Well, check it out. Fittest on Earth, Final Showdown in Madtown. Okay, next thing we want to talk about, there's actually a couple competitions going on this week. First, we'll start with the one that's going on in the UK. And Lauren, you were at this last year, and it's FitFest. And I know that I remember when this happened, that you came back like really impressed with what went on there. So for people who don't know about this, or maybe don't remember that conversation, what makes this competition so good?
There's a lot of ingredients that make this competition good. And I would say that if you watched or went to SoCal, it was a similar vibe, but in the UK, and FitFest was the first to do it, essentially. Yeah. What is so cool about this is, of course, you have these super teams of these individual athletes teaming up. Last year, they had 3 teams. This year, it's just a face-off of Europe versus the rest of the world. But I think that this is such a repeatable structure because it's not a competition. Yep. It is a showcase. So they specifically program, and the athletes last year, I remember sitting in the meetings, they can kind of negotiate the programming and talk with like the event directors on, we don't think that like that many rounds is going to be a great show. We think if you change this structure, it's better. Or, hey, instead of having 2 athletes do this, what if we just have 1 athlete? So you kind of pick your players. At least that's how it was last year, on what workouts, which groupings, and even a little bit of the programming, which I think made it really unique. And also for the athletes, it's a really great opportunity for them to be able to activate in person, because this isn't something that takes the entire day. They had like maybe 2 workouts each day, maybe more. Each athlete would do about 2 workouts. And when I say 2 workouts, it's not full things that are going to beat up your body. And then the rest of the time, they were able to do meet and greets. They were able to have a gymnastics clinic, a bike clinic, meet with their sponsors where they could then, meet with fans. And it was this really cool, intimate one-on-one experience that these athletes could have with people. And I think it was just a cool opportunity for like people to go and meet some of their fans in person. Whereas, of course, if you go to the games or Rogue or even Miami Wadapalooza, great competitions, great races that we see, but not a lot of interaction for the athletes with the spectators.
Well, I mean, listen to this lineup. You got BKG, Sarah Sigmundsdottir is going to be there. Amy Kringle, Aniel Akai, Ella Wilkinson, Emma McQuaid, Harry Lightfoot, Yella Hosta, Yona Koski, Lucy McGonigal. That's just the Europe team. Yep. And then the rest of the world, Ariel Lowen, Abby Domit, Jason Hopper, Colton Mertens, Emily Rolfe, Fisa Gaffi, Nick Matthew, Dallin Pepper, Sam Dancer. Wow.
Yeah.
And Shelby Neal.
I love it.
Man, like that's just going to be, that's a good crew, dude. That's going to be a lot of fun. It just, I don't know if this is being live streamed though, correct? Like, I don't know if people are going to get to.
Yeah, they didn't last year because like their main goal really was to get people in person. They wanted it to feel like that intimate experience. My only caveat this year is Rogue was only a month ago. And I wonder how much of like the same crossover spectators you would have if it's going to like lower attendance for them.
Well,
might be totally different, but it was still a really cool event last year.
Yeah. And it's just a fun, like you said, it's a fun setting to see them in a team atmosphere. And so it's cool. And maybe it is going to be live streamed. I don't know that for a fact or not if you'll be able to watch it.
For sure. And you brought up a good point, Lauren. And I remember talking to Brent and Pat about this, that, how many times, for example, how many times has Tia competed in Europe? How many times has Brent got to compete in Europe? The opportunities for athletes to compete in new markets and meet fans from those markets who maybe don't get to go to the games or don't get to go to something like Wadapalooza and are much more local in the types of events that they attend. It's just another way of like tapping into that, right? And providing a unique viewership experience that they might not otherwise get. Now with Rogue moving to Europe, obviously that changes things a little bit. But realistically, you get to see athletes, like you said, in a very fun setting, and they actually have time to spend time on a personal level with those people and have those conversations, and continue to sow seeds of happiness and community out there on the outside of the competition floor.
Well, all right, let's shift over now to the other one going on, and I think this is important.
Also, sorry, one more thing, Kyle Rolfe, Emily Rolfe's husband, will be competing in the British rowing. Tournament, the British rowing, that he has been training for. So
go Kyle.
Go Kyle. Very proud and excited for him. So Emily and Kyle will both be competing.
Fantastic.
Hell yeah.
There's two good
go get
people.
It, Kyle.
All right. But the other one going on, and this starts Friday. So both of these are this weekend, but this one starts Friday. And if you're in the United States, it probably starts late Thursday night. That's the Dubai Fitness Championship. And this one's important for a different reason. And Tommy, we were talking before we came on here, and I think you brought up a really good point about why people's eyes will be on this competition. Not only there's some solid athletes who are going to be there. There's Jamie Simmons is there. Luka Djukic is going to be there. Moritz Fiebig, Annika Greer. Like there's some good regional names that are going to be competing at this.
Yeah, you still got Spencer Panchik, Con Frey, Emily DeRoy. This feels very much like back in 2018 when the sectionals season got announced. Dubai was the announcement came hand in hand with them announcing that Dubai was going to be the first ever sanctioned competition. And that was even before we knew what the full scope of the sanctionals system would look like. It was like CrossFit was like, hey, we're going to do something we've been talking about for a long time and quite frankly avoided because of the lawsuits that were going on and the potential legal ramifications around the Kevin Ogar case from the OC Throwdown, and it being them trying to distance themselves from it being a CrossFit competition. Like we're actually going to put our name behind a competition that's not run by us. And then, months later, all of the season is basically going to be that. And it put a huge onus on what is this lead-off event going to do in this new era? How is it going to set the tone? And it's not going to be an apples to apples comparison, but I do think this is a major competition outside of Rogue where we've just received a season announcement. We know that a ton of stuff is online. And there are a lot of athletes that are kind of looking around and being like, online doesn't sound so great. Like, what are my options? Who's going to step up and do something meaningful here that I can maybe focus on? Or, like, all these other competitions that I maybe gone to once or have never qualified for, or maybe, like, provide a good money opportunity at the top, because Rogue is really distributed heavily towards the top end now in terms of prize money. How is this going to look, and is this going to be a viable option for me? And it's almost like a reset in that regard, where this is going to be the first one where that's, going to be a really good earning opportunity since the season announcement. And I do think that how it's produced, how the programming is run, what the competition ultimately looks like, how it shakes out in the athlete experience after, Dubai being around for a decade plus now, could either give people confidence or maybe, be another like notch in like, hey, we don't need CrossFit to run a competitive fitness season, because Dubai was part of that sanctionals era and then removed their like official CrossFit designation and have since kind of continued on their own. And they've always had a big prize purse at the top. They've always had some unique and interesting programming where they kind of showcase the glitz and glitz and glam and excess of Dubai at the high end. So yeah, I think if they run a really good competition, if there's a live stream and what it looks great. Competition looks great, and a lot of athletes come back and be like, yeah, the programming is pretty good. I think it could be a lot of people with some confidence around entertaining other options besides a regular online CrossFit season.
Lauren, you've been there as a fan or in covering it, right? I think I'm the only one who hasn't of this trio who hasn't been there.
Yeah, it was, what year are we in now? Goodness. 2 years ago I covered it, 2022. Yeah.
What was the experience like for you?
Were we there together?
No, we missed year. So I was there when they did the Burj Khalifa run.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which was
Where
a cool
were
event.
you that year?
I was home.
Oh,
the last year that I went was the ski mountain run.
Okay, that was the year before.
All right.
Yeah, in the mall. Yep.
Because it was 2021, but for the 2022 season, because it's always before the calendar year switches
and that's
over.
what gets confusing in my mind. I'm like, what year was it? Where were we? Yeah, I mean, it's a really cool event to be at, and truthfully, I am kind of shocked that they don't get more spectators because I feel like it is so unique and could be like a bucket list location for people to go and watch some of the top tier athletes, because every year they get, several games athletes. And the programming is always really interesting. From the time that, they had the ski area in the mall, like who does that? How cool is that? To the Burj Khalifa, which was awesome, to the beach runs. So I think that it's always very unique in that aspect.
It's just,
I did.
Go ahead, Tommy.
I was going to say, I've spoken with the organizers, and one of them, Diego, I've known since I was started way back in the day on the regional circuit working for CrossFit in like 2011. One of the difficulties is that getting local people to show up. There was so much going on in Dubai in any given weekend, whether it's falcon races, camel races, street like Grand Prix type stuff, tennis, golf, you name it. That there's such a blasé attitude to going to events. Like, oh yeah, I'll get a ticket to that, and yeah, I might show up a little bit on Saturday and check it out, and then go do something else. The old location where it was at the duty-free tennis shop was right outside this village, which was actually one of the few places where you could have an alcoholic drink. And so a lot people would be like, oh, I'm going to go check this out, but then I'm going to go hang out at the Irish Village.
Yeah.
And it's like just this like different attitude towards it. That's really tough. The best way I could describe it is it's like having good seats at a Lakers game. If you notice that like people will show up and they'll saunter in And then
That's
you know
Los
you have the
Angeles in
stars
general,
show
though.
up. Yeah, and if it's not a close game, you know, you might see some of the stars kind of saunter out. You know, a bunch of the seats on the floor level, or you know, hospitality seats that somebody got for a client who's in town and stuff like that. So it's a little bit different. So it's hard to get that. So you would have to rely on international flavor. And yeah, I just don't know what the temperature is around rest of Europe, around traveling to the UAE to Dubai just for that.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I will say the hotel that we stayed at and all the athletes stayed at, by far the best breakfast I have ever had on any travel
did they
excursion.
have a pancake printer, Lauren?
Was it the
A
Jumeirah?
what?
Did they have a pancake printer?
Basically, I mean, anything that you can imagine was at this breakfast.
If it doesn't have a pancake printer, it's not a legit.
Was it the
breakfast.
Jumeirah?
It must have been. It has like outside terrace seating, but also indoor. There's a pool on the top floor of the hotel.
Dang.
Like this
All
place
right.
was magical.
Well, it is
I
going
talk
to be.
about this place.
I've actually said that on this podcast, and I think Diego hit me up about it. He goes, "Oh, thanks for the glowing breakfast review.
Nice.
The breakfast buffet is fantastic."
It's
Comes
so
with the room.
good.
Can you
have-
believe it?
like, if the CrossFit competition isn't going to bring you over there, like the
Go
breakfast
for
the
the
morning
breakfast.
before you go watch the CrossFit athletes should.
Well, it's going to be live streamed. I think it's on the Dubai Fitness Championship YouTube channel. Brian Friend and Lucy Campbell will be on the call. And this is one, and
Lucy.
I'll leave it here. Just because of the visuals of that city and where it is. Like I always thought that would be a great, really amped up TV event, just because everything you could do with the scenery and what it offers there. But we'll see if it ever gets to that point. And going back to Tommy's original point, I think a lot of eyes are on this, because if things become kind of fractured again, who knows? Okay, so one more thing we're going to talk about before we get into like the big thing we want to talk about is that Katrin Davidsdottir retired. So people who watch the show closely know that we, unfortunately, this is totally my fault, and I called Katrin to apologize for it. I edited that part out and just posted the wrong file. So that was my mess up. And I was hoping I got to it early enough to where, it wouldn't get out there, but it did. And what sucks is I usually try to exercise like an extreme level of paranoia with this kind of stuff, because I understand like what can happen. And it just was a comedy of errors that led to it. And it was totally my fault. And like I said, I had a conversation with Katrin. I texted with Brooks Lake. I talked to some people at HWPO. Like I was really sorry about it. And thank God that Katrin and Brooks are the people they are, because they were super nice about it and understanding. And, I'm so glad that I'm glad that she got her moment in the sun, and I am deeply sorry that happened. So, but I was thinking though, is that, there's no debate about whether or not Katrin Davidsdottir would be a Hall of Famer. She's a Hall of Famer. She won the games twice. Like that's a no-brainer. But
Easily.
I was just like, what's the legacy that she leaves behind? And there's two things that came to mind for me. Is first is that I always feel like, and I even late in her career, she always showed up on game day. She just knew how to compete. She may not have looked like the best Katrin we'd ever seen, maybe going through semifinals or whatever, but you show up on the big stage and she just had a switch. Mm-hmm. Also, just the fact that she made the turnaround that she did, missing the games, like not even qualifying to going to win them, is unbelievable, because you don't, that's just so rare nowadays that you see someone, miss, kind of like hovering around 30th, and all of a sudden they're winning. It's just a different sport. And then finally, the last thing that comes to mind about her is that I feel like she's the one who really kicked off and I don't know if this is the right term, but it's the one I'm going to use, kind of the training camp era. Her success really put Ben Bergeron and CompTrain on the map. CompTrain blew up after that. I knew so many people who were doing that after Katrin won, because they're like, oh my God, if she can go from not even making the games to first, there's got to be something here. Like so many people jumped on that, no pun intended, train. And it was kind of, I think, the last time that I can remember, because it was like Tia and Shane, that you had an athlete win without sort of being associated with a coach. And those are the things that stand out to me. And just the fact that she's an amazing person and a great ambassador for the sport. Your thoughts?
Yeah, because even with Annie, Yami didn't really have like the full camp yet. And I think what put it into full focus was the fact that she did miss the games. Mm-hmm. Was very vocal about this adjustment in being with CompTrain and even moving to New England and being a part of this camp. And I think this is also what gave a lot of credence to the idea of camps and people moving in person. Was we went from seeing her like on her knees. I'll never forget that shot of her just in shambles and tears, staring at that rope.
So didn't Sam Briggs come over to her? Yeah,
trying to cheer her up, and going from that to winning the games. Like, you weren't even there the year before, and you won, and you did so when there was change going on in the sport. Regionals were condensing. It was thought that the sport was getting harder, and you started to see this uptick in athletes from Europe, and other people, at the time, rightfully so, were getting more attention. So she was kind of an afterthought because she had missed the games. And anyone who was around back in 2012, 2013, she was really the first kind of what do you say, that like initial sphere of influence games athlete, where you saw the early like kings and queens of the sport and their direct impact on someone that entered the sport because of them, because of what they saw, and then made it to the game. So like Katrin followed Annie's footsteps because she saw someone that looked like her, had a daughter in her last name, was from Iceland, and then made that adjustment and made it to the games. So it was that almost like that. I don't want to say next gen because it doesn't happen so cleanly in the sport. It filters in and out over a couple of years. She was really what was like, oh, there is a huge global impact from these champions via Annie at the time, and we're starting to see it manifest in new stars. It also, in my opinion, really kicked off the whole daughter, like really deep-seated, like the establishment of like the daughter identity in the sport on the women's side. Obviously, Annie brought it to the forefront. She was the first. She was really the pioneer in terms of winning. And, you had the Torfa daughters and Helga Torfadottir, who was there back in 2011. And you even had Vuori, who made it. So, if you go back and look, like she made it way before most people give her credit for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But really, Katrin stepping up and having the success in 2015 was like, oh, yeah, this is like, this whole daughter thing is like a force now. Because, one is cool. Two is like, all right, now it's a streak and now there's a trend here. And it coincided with her winning with Sarah's rise. And you're like, yeah, what's in the water? So that's really one of the kind of big like legacy pieces to me. Another asset, like to me, she above all else was a very kind and genuine person to me, like on an interpersonal level. She always like stopped and took some time out to say hi and ask questions and just chat for a little bit. Funny enough, this weekend is happening in Dubai. I'll never forget a conversation I had with her in 2019. That year she was supposed to compete, but she ultimately had to pull out. That was when she was dealing with a back injury, and she was really, really nervous and scared. And I had this conversation with her in Dubai. We were just sitting there after the event was over. It was just like a very like open-hearted discussion. At the time, I had just gotten engaged, so I'm like trying to start this like new life with my now wife. She was uncertain about the future with like this back injury and how it could potentially derail her. She was coming off of like a down year at the potentially down year at the games, and you're like, oh, is this the turning point? And just the authenticity of that conversation has always stuck with me, and I've always like appreciated her on a very personal level ever since then. And those are kind of two. I have some moments that stand out, but I'll save them. But just like off the base, like that's really what stands out to me. And like the other day, I think I might have even mentioned it on the podcast where that like I got a call from Noah Dean, who's one of the floor announcers, out of the blue, and it was her.
Yeah.
That she was at his gym and she was like, hey, like let me call Tommy. You got his number? And just gave me a call and just checked in, and we're talking about, kids and just life and all that good stuff.
Great human being and someone who should be in a broadcast booth sooner rather than later. I'm just going to throw that out there. But Lauren, what's your experience? What was your experience with her? Because I feel like you kind of got involved maybe a little bit later when she was probably at the peak.
Yeah, I would say honestly, like the biggest conversations that I've had with her were later in her career and when she made the transition to HWPO. I'm trying to think if I interviewed her before then, and I really don't know if I had, but it was just a very, like, her conversations with her feel very genuine and authentic, kind of what Tommy's talking about. Like, she's not afraid to be real and talk about like the things that suck, but also spin it in a way that, yeah, like right now this really sucks, but you know, I'm finding this silver lining to make it better and to keep reaching for more. And I just love like the post that she put up for her retirement, really seeing the full scope of her career. And now even just like seeing from, you know, behind my social media, what her and Brooks are doing and like traveling the world and like the experiences that she's been able to have and like this whole new chapter. It makes me so happy for her because she's lived such a great career and she's left this amazing legacy, like from paving the way to moving to a training camp and working one-on-one with a coach, to being the woman known as a sled dog, to some of those most powerful games moments that give you chills and goosebumps. And I think that she's inspired a lot of athletes to, this is possible. Like if you put the hard work and dedication and do the things that you need to, like you can make your dreams possible. And I think that that's really inspiring.
Yeah. Tommy, what are the moments that stand out to you?
There's a couple. So I'll start with regionals 2016, the very first event. She had won in 2015, kind of came from nowhere. Everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, what?" I'll say it felt very Graham Holmberg-esque because a lot of people, and Graham deserves all the credit. He was the fittest man in 2010. He won the CrossFit Games. A lot of the narrative around the community was like, is Rich better than him? Is Rich going to beat him next year? Like once he figures this like rope thing out. And I felt like a lot of people looked at Sarah was leading most of the way and she just kind of goofed on the pegboard. Is that really like the difference? And so I think there was a lot of expectation and pressure on Katrin. And how did she answer the bell the very first regional event that she showed in live competition? She went out and set an event record in the snatch ladder that year and just absolutely ripped it. And I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, yeah, so that was legit." And then it followed up with two moments at the games. One was right shortly after the ranch deadlift ladder. So if you remember that year, 2016, they made the trip down to Aromas. And there was 3 events to start. She took 38th in the ranch deadlift ladder and was towards the bottom after that event. And it was like this kind of like, I think she basically took third to last. And when Tia had just won, and I think this set the tone for the rest of the competition, she comes right back and has another top 5 finish in the ranch chipper. And was like, "No, I'm not going down easy like that." My weakness showed up and it buried me in that moment. But the difference between now and 2014 is I'm going to fight back. Yeah. And it set the tone for the final day of competition. One of my favorite back and forth sequences between 2 athletes at the CrossFit Games that I've ever seen. It's the 3 50-point events that were in the middle of the morning, afternoon, Sunday. This was, to me, the first time it truly felt like a back and forth battle for the title of the fittest on Earth. For the first time, it was like 2 athletes that were like, we're both up here, we both see each other, and like we're looking each other in the eyes, and let's do this. And whereas in other years, I felt like maybe someone clipped someone at the line or snuck up because of like a devastating thing like the rope and Rich, and it never just felt like that full like heavyweight battle. And this one felt like it because Katrin came out and won the handstand walk. Tia came right back and won the sprint, and Katrin came right back and won the sled pull. And it was like, haymaker, haymaker, haymaker. What the hell just happened? This is going to be awesome, and we still have a finale to go. Yeah. And to me, that was like, yeah, this is like real sport. Yeah. Like this is legit. Yeah. There's friction and tension and all that stuff. And also gave us that sequence gave us one of the craziest turnarounds in terms of like athlete spirit that we saw like behind the scenes with Tia, and she was so defeated and knowing what the champion is. But that's not the focus. Katrin. But like just that moment to me was like, yeah, this is the real launch pad for sure.
Well, as hate to see her go because it was a pleasure watching her compete, but excited to see what's in the future for her. And she has nothing left to prove. And as great as a competitor as she is, she's probably an even better person. Thank God for that. So all the best, Katrin. Enjoy it.
Yeah, she'd be on my women's Mount Rushmore for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Before we get into our next thing, we want to thank our other sponsor for today. And that is Thursday with their Rest and Recovery Collagen that will help you improve your sleep and your recovery, because not only does it taste great, but it has all kinds of fantastic ingredients in it that are designed to help you calm your central nervous system, get to sleep faster, stay asleep longer, and wake up more refreshed. It doesn't have any melatonin in it, so it's not habit forming. It's got GABA, L-theanine, magnesium, all the good stuff, as Marson Sawyers would say it. I have a playlist with the good stuff. It's called The Good Stuff.
The Good Stuff.
And Thursday has the good stuff. You guys can check them out right now, Thursday.com. Use our code TEF. You're going to save 20%, and you will sleep better. You will sleep longer. You will wake up feeling refreshed. And I have said it a million times, I don't get enough sleep. Tommy's not getting enough sleep. But because of Thursday, the sleep we do get is quality. And I wake up feeling ready to go. Like I don't roll out of bed like a zombie and do that whole thing. I'm like, all right, I'm good. Let's do this. Like ready to start the day. Got my coffee, walk the dogs. Boom. Thursday.com just Thursday.com. Use our code TEF. 20% is off. And I'm telling you guys, it's awesome. I look forward to drinking it every night, and it does wonders. I'm a huge fan. Like I was never like into the sleep supplements until I tried Thursday, and I was like, this stuff actually works, and it does not make me feel like Didn't
Sheena get you into it first?
Yeah, she did actually. She's like, this stuff really works. And that's the thing. That's why you always listen to your wife. I'm like, you're right. And that was before they even sponsored us. And sponsored, like, yes, something I already used that I love. They're going to sponsor us. So yeah, it's fantastic stuff. Thursday.com. Use our code TEF. Okay. The main thing we wanted to talk about, this happened last week, but it's something that, I think deserves its time here. Is where am I at here? I got rid of it. Okay, so the PFAA responded to CrossFit, and so this happened a week ago, and we're recording this on Wednesday. So it happened last Wednesday. It was after we recorded because it was the Thanksgiving weekend, which is wonderful, by the way. And this is what the post reads. So it's a multi-panel post, and the first panel reads, the PFAA board is disappointed with CrossFit's lack of transparency of their investigation and dissatisfied by their next steps. Then the next panel. The PFAA represents over 100 of the best elite individual athletes in this sport. This independent representation is the best method of championing athlete rights, and we remain committed to this mission. At this time, we can't represent all athletes from every division, although we do believe that athletes' needs differ by degree, not kind. In light of CrossFit's announcements regarding safety and procedural changes in the 2025 season, and they have some bullet points listed here. Some athletes may be positioned to veto the CrossFit Games. The PFAA supports athletes who choose not to compete in the CrossFit Games. Some athletes may choose to compete in the CrossFit Games. The PFAA exists solely to support professional athletes in our sport and will continue to support these athletes on an individual level and through continued education and professional discourse with CrossFit. Some athletes may look to explore alternative competition routes. The PFAA is engaged with the broader ecosystem of functional fitness competitions to expand opportunities for athletes competing in these spaces. And then final panel reads, our demands were made with the hope of guiding the sport of CrossFit toward a stronger future. While they choose not to meet them, we remain committed to building unity among athletes and finding ways to create meaningful change together. We continue to believe in the huge benefit of a healthy and successful elite sport offers the broader CrossFit community. So that was their response. And
go back to the bullet points.
Yeah.
That is what we call the old compliment sandwich.
Yes.
Right?
Uh-huh.
But reverse. Where the two things on the thing that they led with is not competing in the game season, and the thing they finished with is looking at alternative routes and maybe not competing in the CrossFit game season. And I think there's a reason why they sandwiched them that way.
Why do you think that is?
Because one, I think if the one you put first needs to be front and center, right, in this scenario.
Yes.
I think that captures the overwhelming gut feeling that a lot of the PFAA people, and this is just my own kind of reading the tea leaves, this is my gut tells me that this is how the PFAA really feels. Like, that's what's most important to them, is that they're going to support athletes who choose not to compete, giving athletes the space and like affirmation that they can forego it, and they're going to still be seen as elite athletes and compete. And then you finish with, oh yeah, look to explore alternative competition. That's like just a reminder that we're still going to be here to support you if you go elsewhere. And yeah, we'll sprinkle in like a lengthier explanation without like saying just, hey, we support you if you choose to compete in the games. Because let's be honest, I think a lot of people are fed up. A lot of athletes are fed up, and they're really nervous about competing in the season. And if given the opportunity to be able to compete elsewhere and not compete under CrossFit's banner and still have the same earning opportunities, they absolutely would.
Yes, agreed. And so we're gonna have Pat Vellner on hopefully next week. I believe that's scheduled, and we can ask him about some of this. But yeah, I agree with everything Tommy just said. I think the biggest problem here is that the PFAA does not have enough power to really affect, to really, to force CrossFit into doing something. And if you think back 40, 50 years in the NFLPA, they didn't have the power then that they have now. Like, this is a group that's in its infancy. I like what they're doing. I think it's necessary to have a group that represents athletes' interests. And I know Mitch Hooper from the strongman side of things has talked about the PFAA, and I'm wondering if maybe strongman athletes would want to get involved. Like, if they kind of have to branch out of just being CrossFit athletes, but it's a different sort of thing, the issue that like would be representing strongman. I don't know, but it's just going to take time to build that power. And now, like, to Tommy's point, you can't take a hard line really on anything because you don't have the power to do that. You have to sort of say, okay, and they should. Like, we support athletes who are going to compete. We support athletes who are not going to compete. But it does definitely put the people who are on the board in a strange position right now, because you couldn't blame them, because this is their livelihood, for competing in the CrossFit Games season. But at the same time, if they do sign up, there's probably some people out there that are going to say, wait a minute, like, you can't make demands like you did and then say, well, I guess we lost, and then just go back. And I don't know what the right answer there is, but I'm guessing that some of them are maybe feeling that pressure.
I mean, it's the same concept as when people stand outside of their place of, maybe not apples to apples, but similar, when people stand outside of their place of employment and strike because they want pay raises or whatever, and then they end up going back inside if those demands aren't met. It's like, oh, well, did you really create any change? Now, where's this line? What is your authority? Do you have any power? And it puts everybody in a very uncomfortable situation. And as Sean said, you can't blame anybody who like does have to put food on them and their family's table. And I think for all athletes right now, whether you are part of the PFAA or not, everybody's kind of in this dance position. What do we do? What is going to set me, my family, my future up for the most success? And that's a really complicated situation when we look at it, because we can say that we don't make it an emotional decision, but emotions, we're humans. Emotions are going to come into the fold whether we want to or not.
And even in those scenarios where they strike and then go back to work, I actually have a friend who's a part of exactly that up in Sacramento recently. They still are causing change because every minute, especially in a public sector or public servant sector, every second you're not working, work is not being done. Work not being done is money lost. And it may not ultimately bring about the demands, but being willing to do that at various intermittent points has brought about tremendous change from organized labor over time. Because eventually, it's almost like, I don't want to say death by 1,000 cuts, but you start you dent their wallet a little bit, and the first time's kind of a wake-up call, and you do it again, and then you do it again in intervals that allow you to obviously exist because you have to think about your family, and then eventually we can't do this again, because not every strike has been successful, but strikes over time have proven successful.
Yeah, but
and I think that's what we're going to see here too, because whether it's a significant amount of athletes who don't sign up for the season or it's not, it's still somewhat moving the needle in the sense that there is going to be some kind of other opportunities for athletes to compete outside of the CrossFit Games season.
I mean, it seems like that, but here's the thing, so when you talk about a strike, it's like usually everybody is on board. Well, not everybody's on board here. They represent 100 athletes. So if 100 athletes drop out of the open, that's $2,000. That is negligible. That's nothing.
But to me, I don't know that it's 100%. Yes, the financial part makes a lot of sense, but I also think it's a little bit of optics too. It's who drops out, who doesn't.
Well, yeah.
What kind of sponsors are they tied with?
And that's the dilemma, right? Because that's what ultimately hurts the PFAA is they need broader unity amongst athletes to be able to make decisions for the collective, exactly. Right? Mm-hmm. That's what collective bargaining is all about. Having all these people signed up to say whatever you guys decide to do as a union, we're okay with. And if that's striking, we're behind you. That's what we pay our dues for, and that's what we're trying to build. Because however X many elite athletes not competing that year or going elsewhere, it's not going to have an immediate effect. CrossFit isn't going to be like, whoa, I would be willing to bet that as soon as that happens, Cash would be like, fine, screw them, next man up.
Yeah, then that's...
But what will happen is a bunch of people that everyone's not that invested in will happen. Viewership will go down, registration goes down, and that second cycle hits, and suddenly they're like, yeah, our projections aren't looking good anymore.
Well, okay, so let's talk about the viewership thing. Okay, because that's the one area where there might be a meaningful impact, because lack of viewership makes your event not easy to sell sponsorships against. So that's one place where it makes a dent. But beyond that, and I don't know how much of a difference it would make, because we're in uncharted territory here. And the other thing I think that's facing athletes that is making their decision a little more difficult is the fact that we don't know what the prize purse. I mean, this is the same situation every year. We don't know what the prize purse is going to be, but it has been relatively consistent over the year because there's been a title sponsor and it has sort of maintained the same. So you understand kind of what's at stake here. What's that going to look like now that the money from the Open is essentially going to fund that? Yeah, and I don't know if there's any
But here's the thing: we don't even know to what extent it's going to fund.
That's the thing. That. So now you're making decisions based on sort of all these unknowns, and you got to. I don't envy the people that are trying to make that decision. Have to make those decisions.
Yeah, it's the money funds, but how exactly? It's you're not giving us exact breakdowns. You're not telling me, 50% of every registration is going to the prize purse. We don't know that.
No.
They could say, open registration is going to the prize purse, and then take the tens of millions of dollars that they make from the Open, or, it might not even be that much anymore, and put $100,000 and be like, see, that was from the Open. It's there's no guarantees to that. Until they actually are transparent about this, then it's wolf. I don't know if you guys know that term. Wolf tickets?
No.
No.
Enlighten me.
That's kind of a street term we used to say growing up. If you're wolfing or wolf tickets, it means you're you're bullshitting, kind of. You're selling us
I'm
something
not as
that's not
hood
real.
as you are, apparently.
Me either.
Rough streets of Salinas.
I don't know.
I think it's unfortunate. I think it's unfortunate for the athletes for a variety of reasons, but I can't remember who, so I'm sorry, otherwise I would give you credit, but who made the argument that it was a positive thing to tie prize purses to open registration because then, okay, I'm Sally Joe and I really want to support X athlete at the game, so I'm going to sign up for the open and that's really going to like drive me to do it. The way that I think of it, and maybe this is just the group of people I've spoken with, is people inside the affiliates, I think, want to see the return in what they're doing. So I don't know that driving like a bigger prize purse is really what gets people amped to sign up for the open. But if you said, 2% of every open registration is going to go back to your specific affiliate to get further education for your staff, to host a holiday party, to get new equipment, things like that. That's really what I think would drive up open registration. So to tie it to the prize purses for professional athletes, that makes me nervous.
But there's no other alternative. That's what I was going to get into. It's like the odds of not having a title sponsor this year are probably pretty good, given everything that's gone on. They didn't have one last year. First time since 2010. So,
wow.
Maybe, I hope I'm wrong. I mean, I want to see this be okay. Like, I hope someone says, yeah, I want to do that. But the odds are not good that that's going to happen. And, and look, I guess as an athlete too, you can sign up and just say, well, you can get halfway through it and be like, oh, okay, well, it's not worth it. I'm going to go do something else. But I think it just gets back to me is that when the PFAA made their demands, I felt that if you're going to do that, and they were well within their right to, and I understand why they did, you better, there better be a well thought out alternative for the eventuality that they're not going to say yes to any of this, that you're going to get totally shut out, which is what happened. And maybe there is, but I felt like if that was going to be the case, like that plan had to be enacted really fast because you had to say, okay, you said no, here's what we're doing. And the fact that hasn't been thought out.
They're playing chess right now.
Who?
The PFAA.
Are they? I hope they are, but
I mean, think about it. Yes, we don't know the prize purse, but we know that there's going to be this somewhat hybrid season. But like, what does that even look like?
That's what I'm saying. It's like you need to get that done.
Answers. We don't have dates, locations.
We don't have that. But what I'm saying is like the PFAA, in order to me, and again, I'm not trying to like dump all over them. But this is a question that I would
I don't think you are.
Have for Pat.
I think this is a good conversation.
They need to like. I feel like in order to be as effective as you possibly could, you needed to have that alternative ready to go right when you got rejected and say, here's our plan. Here's what we're doing. Get ahead of it so that you have everything planned out. You have this, like, this is what our season structure is going to be. These are the events we have. Now, I know that is much easier said than done, but now you're ready to go. Like, this is what we're doing, as opposed to, well, we don't know. And I think maybe that's like, if I had one thing that I would say, tell, Brett and Pat, is like, maybe that should have been thought out a little bit better before the demands were made.
Yeah, but even then, like, for all we know, they could have something up their sleeve and they're not telling. Because at this point, if you know CrossFit's not going to negotiate in good faith, if you know that they have broken NDAs and leaked stuff out that isn't, being a good negotiator, or not, they're not bringing an honest foot to the table. Would you tell them everything you're about to do? Would you announce everything publicly?
Yeah, I would. If I had it all planned out, absolutely, because it eliminates uncertainty right now. And there's so much uncertainty going on that it would make you look a little more credible if you had that than the alternative. If you had it all planned out, you had your dates, you had everything. And
but
again, I know that's not easy to do.
I'm not talking about an alternative option. Like, you're planning all that stuff out, and I'm saying something like the effect of a strike. The plans and stuff are in motion for whatever competitive season, whether it's World Fitness Project or something else. If you have all these athletes committed to boycotting the season, making this jump, and making this push elsewhere, at this point, why would you tell CrossFit that is coming?
And why would you reveal what that looks like before you see their cards?
And why not wait till the very last moment so it can be effective, and then you just hit them with the Warhammer.
I get you, but I think, and I understand where you're
even though
coming
it
from.
looks like they're not being transparent to us, like for all we know, they could be having so many conversations with the athletes, and that's who they're serving. I mean, they put that in their post the other day.
And
it's just the way that I'm thinking of it. I can see what you're saying too, Sean. Mm-hmm. And I think right now we all just have a lot of questions of what's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah. And so that's a really good point. But here's what the thing I would not push back, but I would just add to that is that dynamic that you're talking about, I think would work if you were talking about organizations that were on equal footing right now with credibility. And I think so much trust has been lost in CrossFit like that. It's not like one or two things that they have to do to rebuild it. They have to do a lot. Like they have to do a lot to rebuild it. And I think the PFAA could just, if they had the right people, which I'm pretty sure they have like a lot of really good people involved with whatever they're doing, but to come out and just get ahead of it and say, we're going, here's what we got, here's what's going on, athletes, this is the schedule, this is, and then go and not wait on CrossFit, because now you're just giving them more opportunities to kind of control the narrative. But I totally understand where you're coming from with what you're saying. And I'm glad I'm not in charge of this, because I don't know if I'd have the right answer, but these are just the things that pop into my head when we're thinking about this. And it's just, I'm really looking forward to having a chance to hear from Pat and maybe Brent, in the future, because these are just things I'm not asking to try to make a point. I'm asking because I genuinely want to know. And I think we all want to see this work, but I think we are in for a very strange season where things are a little bit fractured.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at this point, any way you look at it, it's going to be fractured. And the season, any of the seasons, whatever it's going to look like, it's going to be completely new and different to any history of what we've seen before.
Yeah. Every time I hear the word fractured, I think of the South Park video game. Do you know the name of it?
Oh, yes. I do. What was that? It was something but fractured.
Fractured butthole.
Oh yeah, fractured butt, but WHO. Yeah.
If you said it fast enough, if you said it quickly, it was fractured butthole.
Yeah. No, I remember that.
Oh my God. It was a video game?
Oh yeah.
It was a video game, yeah.
I don't know that one. Dang
it. But we'll see. I respect what they're trying to do. Like I do think the PFAA is trying to make things better. I really do. Now whether or not they're being effective at it, I think that's where the argument is, but I think their hearts are in the right place. Like I respect the hell out of Brent and Pat. I think they're smart guys. I just keep wondering, like, what is it going to be? Like, what are they going to do? Because they have to do. There's got to be like you got to have the stick ready to go, because the carrot didn't, or they didn't even try the carrot, but they didn't get what they wanted. So now it's like there's got to be consequences.
Yeah,
and I don't know what those are going to be.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, I will say this. I'm excited to see Kristen Holt on the competition floor again this weekend.
Yes.
Good point.
We didn't talk about that.
Fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's an animal, man. That's an athlete that's going to be fun to talk about when I guess she kind of has sort of unofficially hung it up, but just the legacy that she's left too, man.
Yeah.
She's like the European Becca Voigt, just always there.
I did have something for anyone who are discussing all the doc stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to see the piece that really kicked off the whole like modern documentary, like, hey, this is maybe a viable thing, you go to YouTube, you look up 2014 games. There's a video that basically like Marcin and
the highlight reel.
So there's the 2014 highlight reel for sure. That one's a 9-minute one.
Love that one.
That's a snippet of the bigger piece.
Okay.
Yeah, that they turned into as kind of like a mini doc. And
the highlight reel was awesome.
The highlight reel is fantastic.
That was one of those videos. Like if I had to pick things that I would take from there and take to my grave, that's one of them. That highlight video is freaking awesome. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So just type in 2014 CrossFit Games, and it'll be titled 2014 Games. It's got 3.6 million views on it, and it's like an hour. It's like 95 minutes or something like that. And that's really like beyond the Froning doc. That was really one of the things that
this is on YouTube.
Yeah.
On YouTube. Yeah. And then on that search query, it'll also include highlights from the 2014 Reebok CrossFit Games. and it's a photo of Josh Bridges yelling after push-pull. So those two videos, put them on your watch list.
2014
for sure.
Which is one of my favorite years. That was a great year.
So,
okay, well, hey, good discussion. Appreciated the exchange there. And like I said, we'll have Pat Vellner hopefully next week and maybe get some of these, ask him some of these questions. So any community support that we need to get to before we get to our PRs and our reps?
Not off the top of...
Okay. Well, listen, if you guys have something out there that you want us to get the word out on, please send it to us via our personal Instagram pages or the Talking Elite Fitness Instagram page. Or if you have other means of getting a hold of us, do it. Send us all the pertinent details so we make sure we send people to the right spots to get you the support that you need. Always happy to do, to get the word out on whatever good is going on there out in the community. PRs, no reps. Start with the no reps. Who's got a no rep? Oh, Lauren's got a no rep. Lauren, go ahead. I like the way Lauren is raising her hand.
It's like, I have a no rep. It happened before this recording.
Oh.
I was on customer service with Shark, like their vacuums.
Oh, vacuum, yeah.
Okay, so I have one of their remote robot vacuums, because I have two very fluffy dogs and it runs every single day.
Yep.
It keeps the maintenance from my house being a snow globe of fur. And it broke when my aunt was at my house last. So I'm not going to blame her, but I mean, it's ironic that things break when my aunt watches my house. Yeah. But the good thing is I had it under warranty. Well, unfortunately, I'm still getting a new one for free, but so they sent me a new one. It was not the right new one. So now I'm on the phone with them for over an hour going through everything and they can't find the documents. They can't find anything. We finally get it resolved. And because of dang Black Friday, everything is out of stock for the next 2 to 3 months.
Oh.
So I said to this man that my house was literally going to be a snow globe of fur, and he just laughed.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
It's like, just send me something. Send me anything. I don't care. Tell me that you care. Just do something.
Yeah.
That actually leads into mine. So
all right, go ahead,
that's
Tommy.
a good one.
Yeah, go ahead. That's the story.
I'm going to no rep late night TV ads. Okay, so because pulling some late night shifts and stuff with the baby, so I'm up just kind of trying to bide my time. And the advertisements that are on late night TV, one of which is always Shark Vacuum.
There you go, Lauren.
They make it look like it's like God's gift to cleaning.
It kind of is. I'm not gonna lie.
All right. Well, as long as you endorse it, that's good.
Yeah. the amount of
oh God,
the pharmaceutical advertisements. Whether you want to stiffen up or loosen out, they got the pill for you.
Oh yeah,
and it's just like constant, and the fake Medi-Cal or legal ads that are on late night and running every 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It drives me up the wall.
Well, because that's the demographic that still watches TV with commercials.
I just want to watch Thor Ragnarok for the 70th time. I don't need to take 4.5 hours to do it because every 5 minutes I'm having someone standing in front of a fake call center telling me to,
get a reverse mortgage
lawyer on the phone. Yeah. Reverse man Dan, that reverse mortgage thing.
Yeah, late night TV commercials aren't pretty, but
they're not.
Yeah, they're geared towards people in their 60s, 65 and up. That's because that's who's watching commercial TV now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't think I have a no rep. I got a PR though.
Oh, let's hear it.
I'm just gonna PR Apple TV Plus in their programming. Severance season 2 is coming out January 17th. And I went back. My mom was in town for Thanksgiving, and I was telling her all about the show. And she's like, "Okay, well, let's watch it." And I was like, "Okay, if you don't like it, we'll turn it off." And I didn't think it would be her thing, but she was totally into it. And now I'm watching season 1 again. And if there's anybody out there that watches Severance, please hit me up because I really don't have a lot of people to talk to about the show. It is so
be a friend to Sean.
Freaking good. And I'm watching this first season again, and I'm just like, oh man, and I can't wait for season 2. So big PR to Severance and Apple Plus because they just put out all their stuff is fantastic. But
it's a bummer. We don't have Apple
you
Plus.
You gotta.
Anymore,
I'm about ready. I will get it for you just to watch this show. It is so good.
Just we can talk about it.
It's so good, man. Yeah. All right, that's my PR.
I'm going to PR Cyber Monday on the inverse of what Lauren. Black Friday didn't treat her so well, but Cyber Monday.
Cyber Monday's good, man.
All my Christmas shopping one day.
Nice.
Oh,
I have done.
I love that.
Knocked it all out.
Not a thing. Lauren.
Didn't pay full price for a single item.
There you go. PR for Lauren. We'll end it.
I'm also going to PR a television show. Yellowstone.
Oh.
Have you guys dabbled?
I have not.
I have.
Okay. With Tommy, you seem like a skeptic. Did you not like it?
No, I do like it. But I caught it piecemeal, so my wife is a big fan of it, and the character of John Dutton, some of the inspiration for him and some of the storylines is actually loosely based on one of my buddy's dads.
Oh.
What? How do you find that out?
There's a couple storylines in Yellowstone that are directly tied to some events that happened in real life in lesser terms that my buddy's dad was involved in, involving airports being built in areas in Montana and things like that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, that's the part that I'm on right now. I'm like at the beginning of season 3.
Yeah.
All right. Good TV, man. When you find a good TV show, you want to tell everybody about it. It's like CrossFit. You just want to tell everybody about
lean
CrossFit.
into it.
Absolutely. So yeah, Severance fans, please hit me up. I need people to bounce the stuff. Oh God. Okay. That is going to do it for this show. Thank you to our sponsors, Vuori, vuori.com/TEF, 20% off. I'm telling you, if you're looking for something for the holidays, go there. Okay. You're going to find something that whoever you get it for will absolutely love. I swear. And maybe even just pick something up for yourself. Start a new Vuori habit. Also, Thursday.com. Use the code TEF. Save 20%. Two great organizations. So glad to have them on board. So glad they support us. And if you order their stuff, you will be very happy. Next week, hoping to have Pat Vellner on. Good luck to everybody competing this weekend in Dubai and also at the FitFest in UK. We'll be talking about those next week and try to catch some of the action this weekend as well from Dubai. I've actually never really had a chance to. I've watched some of it because it's always at such weird hours, but I'm going to try to make an attempt to watch some of that.
Yeah.
All right. For Tommy Marquez and Lauren Khalil, I'm Sean Woodland. Take care of each other. Be better, and we will talk to you guys next time.
Like a kiss at the start of a first date. If it's good, I don't want to wait. When the feeling's right, I'm taking it.